Hey, welcome to Seller Investigators tutorial. In this video, we're going to show you how to use Seller Investigators. Seller Investigators helps you get money back from Amazon. Basically, Amazon FBA reimbursement, you can call it tool, software, service. This video, we're going to show you the insides of Seller Investigators. We're going to show you step-by-step everything, how to use it. If you're going to have any questions, of course, use the comments. There are going to be timestamps for each part of the video. So if you need something specific, check out the description. We have the answer there. And the special offer from Seller Investigators, $500 in free reimbursements. Link is going to be in the description, plus a promo code. Basically, that means the first $500 that the guys will be able to recover for you are going to be without any commission. So it's a nice way to test the service, see if it works for you, see if you like it or not. Hopefully you will. Today with me, Lee, he's one of the co-founders of Seller Investigators, and he's going to show us this tutorial today. Probably going to be asking him some questions in the process. The goal is to help you, the viewer, make the most out of Seller Investigators and get the most money back from Amazon for your Amazon store. So Lee, what's up, man?
Hey, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, man. Happy to have you here. It's been a few calls we got on, and finally we're ready to record and comfortable, I guess, environment and all that. And I'm happy, man. Let's share the screen, man, and show Seller Investigators. Also, you can explain, like, you're the co-founder, so what you guys do, maybe in a bit better way than I explained, like what is Amazon FBA reimbursements, like how you help people, and then we're gonna dive into the tutorial.
So my business partner and I started Seller Investigators, 6-7 years ago. We saw a need in the marketplace for people, as you mentioned, to get back dollars that they're owed from Amazon. The relationship you have with Amazon is, I don't mean to say that it's adversarial, but they're in the business of making money and you're in the business of making money, and they make money when you're successful. But they make money when you're not successful too, by the nature of the way that you pay fees and the way that you have inventory on their warehouse. They charge you fees to be in the warehouse, pick and pack fees, whatnot. Amazon sees, if you think about it, millions and millions and millions of packages a day into their distribution system. No matter how big you are on the platform, I mean, we work with some brands that are over $1 billion on the platform, as an example. And while that sounds like an enormous amount of money, and it is, Amazon turns over $650 billion on FBA globally annually. So even if you're doing $1 billion, you're not even 10 basis points. You're not even 1% of their sales. You're not even 100th of their sale. Like, you're very small, even if you're massive. And as a result of that, because the inventory on FBA is essentially on consignment, there are issues inherently that exist around your inventory. They can't count it accurately just because of the sheer volume that comes in. They lose it, it gets damaged, it gets run over by a forklift, it gets stolen. There are any number of reasons why there are issues. And if you were in traditional retail, you'd call it shrinkage. And you'd have a 30 days net to, or whatever however you want to phrase it, where 2% of your invoice would end up, they wouldn't pay it because they take that as an allowance for damages or for co-op or whatever they want to do. In Amazon, there is no such thing as that. There is no allotment for that. And so any dollars that are not 100% returned to you from your sales are an incorrect tally from Amazon. Keep in mind, Amazon is never doing this to the detriment of Amazon. It's always to the detriment of the seller, the way they make estimates. And so whether you do it with us or with another company, or you do it internally, if you're not advocating for your business on behalf of your business to Amazon, more often than not, they're keeping about 1% of your net sales. So on $1 million account, the example of that, it would be about $10,000 a year that is just turning into pixie dust, that if you don't go in and dispute it and stand up and raise a flag, Amazon gets to keep it. And we act as that bridge to help you get that money back.
Yeah, I understand, man. Definitely, I can see that from my side as a seller. Sometimes they lose inventory, sometimes they automatically reimburse us, but sometimes not. Like, and I think their policy says, like, you're welcome sort of to reach out and get your money back. But if you don't do that within X days, like, you can't even do that anymore, I guess. That's a lot of money, man. My business makes like 500,000 sales in a year or so. maybe even more this year, I believe. But then, yeah, and we do see that on the fields, like it's actually, yeah, we're just losing money. So, a $5 million account, think about their percentages, and even smaller sellers, anyone can kind of, and should, I think, get this percentage back because it's still your money. Either people, I used to do it like manually, like, so to say, filling the cases myself when I discovered that a few years ago, and then using service providers can definitely save time, yeah, and
Yeah,
just
the
help you do it
challenge
more
with doing
efficient.
it yourself, and don't get me wrong, this is a service you can do yourself.
Yeah,
There are some components of what we do that are not humongous lifts to do internally. You can do them, like if you track it, depending on the velocity in your business and how
yeah,
technical you are,
yeah,
you can do some of it for sure. The problem is that some of it is really complex, and getting Amazon to see your side of the argument, producing documents at the right time, using the correct arguments in the proper sequencing, those things really matter with Amazon. You got to, you can't do bots. There are things you have to do, and you alluded to their timestamps. You have 9 months to look for lost. I mean, for missing inbounds, and 18 months for lost and damaged. And outside of those windows, it just doesn't matter what the argument is. Amazon just isn't going to give you the money back. So there's no sense of urgency that you have to do this today, except that there may be something that's rolling off, 8 months and 30 days or 17 months and 30 days, and that tomorrow will be ineligible for going after. That's what we try to explain to people is that, if you do it internally, you're probably getting about 50 cents on the dollar, give or take. We only take a success fee. That's important that, we are a free service. We'll do a free audit for you. We will monitor your account for free. And until you have an issue that pops up, our service that we do for monitoring costs you nothing. And then if we are successful getting the money back physically returned to you from Amazon, then we take a percentage of that success. It's also important, we as a business, let's say, and this happens, not a lot, but it happens, Amazon 60 days later determines that they found the inventory. Let's say they gave you $10,000, just and we're working with a 25%. Our rack rate's 25%, or our fee is 25%. Let's say they found $10,000 that they returned to the seller on behalf of our effort. We take our $2,500, the client gets $7,500. And let's say that 30, 40, 60 days later, Amazon figures out that they found the inventory they thought they had lost. They will put that inventory back into your FBA, sort of place, into your inventory. And then they'll remove $10,000 from the bank that is tied to your Seller Central account. They'll basically charge you back the $10,000 they gave you. We are the only service that's going to give you the $2,500 back, because we only get paid on money we get back. We don't do it when we find errors in your inventory. We think that's your money already, and you shouldn't pay us for your inventory, only where Amazon loses it. So that's a big distinction in the market. We are the only company that does that.
fair enough, man. So I'll remind our viewers in the description, I'm going to have a way to do, I guess, a free audit and also get those $500 in free reimbursements. So thank you for sharing what you do, guys, and your special, I guess, value proposition that, in cases you mentioned, Amazon finds your inventory and then kind of takes kind of money back from you. You guys will not charge, or I guess, will you give back the
Well, we
money?
would have already charged you, and
Yeah,
we'll credit it back into the account,
yeah,
is the way it
fair.
works.
That's fair.
And
That's a fair way
the
to look at
access
it.
that you give us, and to your point, we have a free audit. We recommend, signing up for a free audit. It's no obligation. It
Mhm.
takes about 24 to 48 hours, typically turn it around, depending on the account size. From there, you can make a determination. You give us a credit card. That's the trigger for us to then start monitoring your account and going after cases. Until you add that credit card, you're just in the free mode. But yeah, I mean, we encourage people to try and do the audit, because you never know what you're going to find. I mean, we have clients that we have found. I know this sounds strange, but we've found clients that have found just a few dollars, and we found clients that we've gotten back, many millions of dollars, not just a million, but many millions. And you just realize, and of course, the many millions are going to come from very large accounts. You're not going to find $1 million in a $50,000 account, of course, but it's all relative. It tends to run about 1% of sales, and it doesn't seem to correct itself annually. Like, doing work, you can do a little bit of things in your account, and we'll allude to that, or we'll talk about that here in a minute when we go through the dashboard. There are some things that we recommend that you do, but you're never going to get this number to go to zero. It's the nature of the inventory exchange with Amazon. If they were physically counting your inventory and they had people that were being super, super careful with it, the velocity in which they're able to get things out would get bogged down, and there'd be human error in the counts. So it's really just a function of them being so big and there being things that need to be worked through, that there are these, I mean, call it minor errors, but in your store, 1%, the average Amazon store runs a 20% margin. You're talking 5 points EBITDA. That's a meaningful number.
Yeah, man.
So
I mean,
this is our main website. You can see it's in Chinese, it's in Spanish, it's in a number of languages. You can come down here and see a bunch of different things about our business. But what is important is this login button right here, or doing a free audit. This is where you'd sign up if you were interested. We already logged into this account, so we're going to use this as just sort of a dummy account to kind of walk through for folks. Some of this is not going to be 100% apples to apples when you're doing it in your own store. This belongs actually to my business partner. This is a business that's no longer active on Amazon, but we leave it up and active on our page because it just allows us to do these sort of demos. I'll start here. I assume you can see my cursor. You can see here that the total dollars recovered breaks down between loss, damage, inbound, and overcharges. And then, of course, there's kind of a nice little pie chart. Assuming this account was still active, there would be some things that we had probably filed that would be related to Amazon needing to make a decision. We need to produce some documentation around, for example, inbound shipments. Or we file cases with Amazon. Sometimes they solve the problems within minutes. Sometimes it's days. Sometimes it's weeks. Sometimes it's months. It is about diligence. It's about being consistent. It's about working with them to try and find a resolution. So, you'd see a little bit of activity here. And then you would have a chart like this that would outline what was pending and in what types of, what the issues were. Same thing over here in the pipeline, and action required would be, for example, if we needed documentation from you for an inbound shipment and we were waiting for you to produce those documentation. And we communicate with you a variety of different ways, but mostly through the email, sometimes texting. But we tend to be pretty diligent about finding those documents, because without them, not a whole lot can be done. So this is also sortable. You can sort it down by some date ranges if you want. Basically, everything on our dashboard is transparent. We want you to have as much or as little information as you think is relevant for your business. You can export all of this. Everything here is just sort of a snapshot and a link back into your Seller Central store, so that hot links all work. And like I said, you can export all of this if you wanted to see any of this in a pretty report. This is a more granular approach or view of what we just looked at here in the cases that have been won, or what would be all clear. This is obviously, it's called cases. Here you got cases, you got successful, resolved, and pending, and they're color coded. As you come down here, all we're seeing is some successes here. Sorry, I was looking for a pending, and I realize now that pending, there isn't going to be anything pending because this account isn't active anymore. So apologies for that. But resolved means that we solved the problem, but we didn't necessarily get you money back. It'd be something got found or something like that. But all of these blue, these are all hot links that back into your Seller Central account. So you can track this. You can see all the visibility into what we're doing in these cases. Again, this account is not active, so I can't tie back into a Seller Central account, nor would I want someone on the web to have access into that, so I wouldn't show it. But these are all hot links. They pop you back into your account, assuming you're logged in by an admin on the same PC. You can see this broken down. This is all of the cases. You could see this as, what's been lost, what's been damaged, and so forth, all the way over here. These are all just the different types of cases that typically you come across. Again, what we tend to see is that people, when they first come on, are really interested in this, because in the first 45 to 60 days, typically a client gets back a fair amount of money just because of the way that the process works. And then it goes into more of a maintenance mode where you might be on the platform kind of forever, which is what we would encourage, because it means it's being monitored and Amazon's not getting away with anything. If you're doing $1,000, or let's just say $1,200 a year, that we find because you're a $150,000 seller, that's going to roughly work out to be about $100 a month. That runs a few months past when you had the sales. So if you're a seasonal business, it'll be a few months after that product goes into the warehouse. So you'd have to think about that. But once you kind of get onto the system, it tends to be pretty consistent. And this would be a page that would be your friend to kind of go and look and see what we're doing. This is where we come in, and this is the documents portal. You can export things here, like I mentioned. You can request assistance. You can reach out to our people internally if you're having questions. And we've got, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000 clients at this point. So, our inbound team is taking in tens or hundreds of these a day where people have questions or are sending in documents, are doing whatever needs to be done within the exchange between us and them. You can upload it here. You can send it in a CSV file, an Excel file, an Access database file, a comma delimited. We don't really care how you send it because we're good enough at manipulating the data, knowing what we're getting. We can work with it. We joke that, you could send it by carrier pigeon if you want. We would prefer that not to be the case. But suffice it to say, we just really need you to get us the documentation and we'll work with it. And our team will work with you to get the documentation right if, in fact, it's not in a format that we can work with. This is a pretty neat a tool that is unique to our business. This is our weights and dimensions tool. And this is where there is a significant amount of leakage in most businesses. Your ASIN, let's say that you own an ASIN and you're the only one who sells that ASIN. Now, this would be less applicable, but for most people selling on Amazon, when they sell, their ASIN is up against other competitors in that same category. And if that competitor, if anyone, let's say you have 5 competitors, if one of them sends in a package that is in the same ASIN, that's a different dimension or weight, Amazon will by default immediately, when they find the error, automatically make everybody in the ASIN category go to that weight and dimension, even if your packaging is different.
Yep.
And so what we encourage people to do is, and you can see here, like this is where somebody's being undercharged or where they're being overcharged. It doesn't always make sense to file a case. But if you give us your weights and dimensions, this will automatically compare it daily against what Amazon has for it. And we will file cases on your behalf if you want us to. We can also give them to you. You can file them. We would encourage you not to do that, but either way, we'll do it. That we will file those cases. This is 85 cents. Okay, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if that particular ASIN, if you did 1,000 units a month, it's $850 that's being overcharged to you. This money is much harder to get back because you have a much shorter window of time. Depending on where you are in the world, is anywhere from 90 to 30 days. So you're not going to get this money back unless you're really paying attention. This is an example of where businesses miss out on very low-hanging fruit to make their business dramatically more efficient. This tool can find you, depending on your store, depending on your ASIN count, depending on what the velocity of particular ASINs is, as much money as our core business. So we highly recommend that our clients use this portal to monitor these weights and dimensions. It's a chronic problem. So again, more explanation for it if you're on the platform and you want to use it. If you're not sure, here's a fee calculator that if you think, oh, what happens if I shrunk my packaging by an inch? Would it kick me into a different weight class? Would it, because anything under a pound goes as a pound. Anything between a pound and 2 pounds is 2 pounds. So if you're at 1.3 pounds, if you could shave a little bit, if you could lose a manual, if you could, create a pixel code instead of a manual, and you can get it to 0.99 pounds, you can save an enormous amount of money, like an enormous amount of money. And this is where you would kind of go about doing that. And then
in order to upload our other products, there was this upload section. Let's say we have 10 ASINs, right? And we want to upload their details. It's in that kind of export, import dimensions part.
Right in here, yep.
In an Excel format that's going to be pre-done for us, I guess. We just fill the things. Right?
It's really, we don't do it that way. Normally, people have it in their systems some way. And we just encourage you to choose a file and send it to us. We have labor. We will, if you get it to us, I don't care if it's in a comma delimited folder. Our people will update it and put it up. We will highlight it and put it in. I'd love for it to be clean in Excel, but if it's not, we'll take it anyway. This is something that most businesses have. Now, mind you, we can auto-populate what Amazon has,
Yeah.
What we need is what you think your weights
Yeah.
and dimensions are.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Yep.
So all these we need to fill and then send it back to you on the left. ASIN, SKU, length, weight, height,
You can do
inches,
it. You can do it
photos.
universally. Like
Yeah.
most of the stuff, like you could export it. You can pull it from ours. You can grab what Amazon has, and you can look. I mean, let's just say you were, a business that had 500 ASINs. Okay, we'll make a complex business that's doing
Yeah. Yeah.
$20 million a year. Okay, doesn't matter. This is applicable big and small.
Yeah.
But if you've got a lot of ASINs, and let's say it's 500, but 20 of them represent 80% of your business, we would tell you to start with those 20 ASINs.
Yeah. I
Let's
understand.
start with the low hanging fruit. I'd
Hmm.
love to do all of it, but if you don't have
Yeah.
all of it and it seems like too big of a mountain to climb to do all 500, just give us 20.
Yeah.
Just give
Yeah.
us 20.
Makes sense.
But that's basically the platform. That gets people kind of a sense for, kind of how we go about it. The sign up page is pretty easy. There's a couple step authentication because Amazon's goal is for nefarious people not to get, access because you get sort of fished or duped into giving access. Obviously, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But the way it works is you determine you want to give us access. We then accept that as a developer. Then you give us the points of access we request. And so that it's two steps, so that it would be difficult for you to be like, what happened? I didn't know I got duped. You have to go in after we've been accepted and give us access. But it's about a 5-minute process. It's pretty easy.
So basically, once we're on the website, we click on free audit, for example, or just sign up.
Yep.
And then it will be outlined there, like what to do, how to connect.
There's a
Simple, I guess,
video
right?
and a tutorial. It
Yeah.
walks you right through it. And should you have problems, we have people on staff that see where people get stuck. They'll reach out to you. They'll help you. We got people that will walk you through a 10-minute phone call to get signed up. There are lots of ways to do it, but we recognize that your store is precious. Your data is precious. The way you run your business is precious. We want you to understand that we are doing everything we can to use best practices to protect and do everything we can to be good people around your business. We feel like the best way to do that is to handhold you if it's required and make you feel comfortable that we're doing what we say we are.
Nice, man. Got it. So yeah, I'll remind our listeners, viewers, in the description, we have link to a free audit plus this $500 off your first $500 in free reimbursements, essentially. So your first $500, they're going to be reimbursed by seller investigators. They won't take percentage on that. So that's a nice way, as I mentioned, to test it out. We have a question, man. What are the most common questions you get about your platform? So maybe we can address them. Something that comes like daily, maybe to you. I know you have a team that helps you on onboarding and all that, of course, but still maybe from what you're hearing from them or from your experience, what are the most common questions you see, man? And let's try answering them, I guess.
Well, it used to be, I think the space has become there's more awareness in the space now. It
Yeah.
used to be for a long time that people didn't know this was possible. And so it was a little bit like selling ice in the desert. People thought we were kind of scamming. Like, how could
Yeah.
you possibly go out and find me $18,000 in my business? That seems like it's too good to be true. And your parents always told you any deal that's too good to be true is probably a lie. And your parents were right, by the way. But in this instance, that's exactly what it is. So, that was something that people often asked. A little bit depends on who you are as a seller. You've got arbitrage people, you've got private label people, you've got resellers. They kind of have different questions. Like an arbitrage, for example, Amazon pushes back pretty hard on documentation on inbound shipments from if you've got an invoice from, let's just say you went to Walmart and bought a bunch of things and are arbitraging it, or to Costco or whatever else. Those can be challenging to use those receipts. We can get through sometimes, but not all the time. Private label person isn't going to have those problems just because of the way the documentation is different because they own the ASIN and there aren't necessarily other people selling that ASIN. Or if you're a company that is reselling something, let's say you're reselling Black & Decker sanders, you're going to be subject to MAP pricing and different things that the manufacturer is mandated, and therefore you're going to have different kind of problems. So it's a little difficult to determine that there is one particular question that comes up all the time. But really, the system, it's so robust that once you're on the platform, the monies just kind of come to you and it's pretty obvious. We send you reports, you kind of, have a sense for what we're doing. There doesn't really require a whole lot of customer interaction. Everybody's just kind of happy doing what they're doing. and they're happy that we're monitoring their store and, getting them back all the dollars that they're eligible to get back. And we have, by the way, we have a one-piece solution as well, if anybody's listening to this. We sold Seller Investigators in the fall to a company called Carbon 6, which is a large software aggregator that is rolling up enterprise-level software for predominantly Amazon sellers now. There's some Walmart and some other things coming, but for now, think of it as Amazon. Refunds has become a focal point, mostly because Seller Investigators is doing so well in the space that we've purchased another company called Chargeguard, and Chargeguard does what we do, but they do it on the vendor side. So my email is lee@sellerinvestigators.com with an S at the end. And I'm sure my information is probably going to be out somewhere in the links. You can also go to Seller Investigators and email any of our people. We have a vendor solution that we can set you up with if you're a vendor. The only person we really can't do a lot for is FBM. If you're fulfilling by merchant, because Amazon isn't touching the inventory, there's a significant limitation on what we're going to be able to help you with.
I understand, man. What should we prepare before starting the audit? Or would you just recommend, hey, just guys, go start the audit, and in the process you see what is needed? For example, like the right dimensions or the bill of lading, or maybe the proof of
delivery or whatever. Right. Yeah. So we encourage people to do the audit first, because some people we don't find a lot of money for. I mean, you're running a really clean store. It doesn't happen a lot, but it certainly does. And having peace of mind that you run a good store is nice to have, and it's free, and we're willing to do that for you. But I would say, and this comes up pretty regularly, I talk about this quite a bit, that if I had one piece of advice to give somebody in a business that's selling on Amazon, it's create a depository, a physical repository, where you put your shipping documents for every shipment you ship to Amazon. If you ship with UPS or Amazon, or you use Amazon, UPS, or FedEx, those companies keep documentation on file for 90 days. We can look back 9 months. That leaves you a 180-day gap. I think that math is right. There's a 180-day gap that if I come to you and I say, I need the shipping documents, the bill of lading, the proof of delivery, whatever, in order to prove that 500 units were delivered on April 15th, and we're now in July, and we're past the 90-day window, April, May, June, July. Yeah. So we're past the 90-day window. You can't go to UPS and pull that documentation. Wow. That money is gone. We will not be able to get it back. So if you take that and you build just a folder and just shove it in there, create a folder every time you create a shipment on May 15th, May 19th, 21, and just dump everything into it. When we come and ask for it, you just basically flip us that folder and we'll get the money back. If you don't have the documentation, unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to help you. So create some place where there's a physical copy. I don't mean printed, a digital copy of your shipping documents for every shipment you ship into Amazon, starting today. Even if you're not gonna work with us, create that document today as a trick. And in 8 months, if you sign up for a service, whether it be us or somebody else, you got the documentation.
Yeah, that's a great tip, man, for sure. Because I didn't know it's 90 days, so short for these companies. Obviously,
problem is, if you're moving millions of shipments a day, and there are 4 or 5 documents for every shipment that are basically photographs or PDFs, the amount of data storage at a certain point becomes it's an added expense they don't want to absorb.
I understand. Yeah. Good advice to keep it all there, create some process for it internally so you don't forget. Something for me to think of to improve it. Appreciate that, man. And hopefully it's useful for our viewers and listeners as well. So in the description, again, I'm going to have the link to free audit. You guys watching are able to get, and the $500 in free reimbursements, basically. So it's all going to be linked in the description. If anyone has any more questions, ask away. And Lee, maybe something I should have asked you or something we didn't cover. Seems like we've covered most of the platform, how it works. We talked about the signing up process, which again, there are videos for that. Once you just go through on that free audit kind of button on the website, it's easy. It's just a few minutes, honestly, to connect the guys to your Seller Central. And if they want to, I don't know, let's say a person works with you, hopefully they're going to be happy, but they say, hey guys, I want to disconnect. Is it an option to disconnect?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
It's just also just by
request.
So
there's no contract. And if at any time you're not happy, you just can cut off our access and the client, we go away. So there is no obligation to work with us ever. We would like to win your business, and our goal is to win it every day. And if we do our job, we don't have a lot of churn. Accounts that we have some accounts that go out of business and things like that I don't count towards our churn. But in terms of our churn, it's very little. We work super hard to do what we say we're going to do. And I think most clients, if not all clients, recognize that and act accordingly.
Pretty awesome, man. Again, so I'll remind our viewers, all the links are in the description. Feel free to ask any questions. Lee, thank you for being with us today, man. I think we'll explain everything well. And I'll leave your details in the description, as mentioned, email, and for the vendors.
Yeah, put my email there, and anybody's got questions, I'm always available.
So we're going to have it all in the description. It's for everyone, pretty much. For smaller sellers like myself, maybe even smaller, maybe someone who does, a year, 200,000 in sales, that's still significant and still can be, you guys can still help them. And of course, the bigger ones, 7, 8-figure, 9-figure, all works. And vendors, that's a specific way of trading on Amazon. Also, Lee mentioned you have to reach out manually, though, you've mentioned, for vendors listening. So should they email you?
Well, you can go to chargeguard.com and sign up. Same way. You don't need to reach out to me, but I'm saying if you do, I'll connect you to the right people. But you can just go to chargeguard.com for the vendor stuff. You mentioned, and I want to point out something, because this happens a lot when we talk about enterprise sales. When some of our competitors deal with smaller accounts, they get treated differently. They have to. Their cost of labor is such that they split, or they don't go after every refund because the refund is too small to justify the expense of their business doing the work. We don't do that. We go after every case, and we treat a $200,000 or a $50,000 annual seller. I mean, it's not fair to say we treat them the same way you do a $100 million seller. That's not practical. But we recognize that $50,000 in sales means something to somebody. That's their business. They're trying to grow that business. That's a relevant number to somebody.
Yes.
And, while we may not find tens of thousands of dollars in that account, if we find hundreds, that's still meaningful to that client. We want people to feel like they're welcome, even if they're smaller accounts. I mean, ideally, I'm chasing big accounts just because, to your point, the economics work better for us on bigger accounts. But that doesn't mean that we won't take small accounts, and it doesn't mean that we don't chase up small issues. We fight and claw and scratch for every dollar for every client on the platform. It's a super important part of the philosophy between my partner and I.
Pretty cool, man. And the name of the other company for vendors, I'm going to also leave it in the description, as you mentioned,
is chargeguard.com.
Chargeguard.com. I'm going to have it there. I'm not sure if there are any, what I'm trying to say is I don't know if I have any from Carbon 6, any discounts for that or anything like that. So I don't know. Or
we don't normally do discounts on the vendor. There's a setup fee for vendor because the vendor side or the 1P side is manual. There's no API to tie into. So there's quite a bit more labor on our side. So there is a setup fee. And we'll work around a setup fee, kind of lowering it or doing something if somebody's interested. Just make a point. I don't know how we do it because we, on the call, we didn't set up being able to follow that. But if people reach out to me, I'll make sure it gets handled properly and make sure everybody is in the right place at the right time.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate that. And yeah, man, thank you today for your time. All the links are in the description. Viewers, listeners, appreciate you all. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Lee.